Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equality, and so much more. We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders.
I am Larvetta Lofton, your host and the founder of the L3 agency.
Known as the brand maven who transforms organizations with her storytelling prowess, meet Larvetta Elle Lofton, host of Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode. All right, we are warming up this season. And as you all know, this season is all about what's next, going global. What does next look like for entrepreneurs? We believe that with global climate, climate control is happening. So there's a lot of shifts in a lot of the things we do, from AI, right? Using AI. We also are seeing a shift where people are not on social as much, like their social media, People want human connection now. So we're seeing a lot of trends. And so this season is bringing in, as you all know, professional services, because I run a marketing and communications firm and I am passionate about service-based businesses, merely because I went in business not to make money, but I went in business to serve. And so that's the number one priority for me. And so when I get to sit with all of these amazing business owners and entrepreneurs, I love that I get to be in this space with them, because I get to be able to hear from them and we get to serve each other based on our own superpowers. And I love that. Like, I absolutely love that. Like, gives me chills because I see them working in the space that they're in. And then when they come into the studio, I'm like, yes, let's do it. So, and I'm all about that Black excellence, global excellence. And I'll tell you all something. Today is Black Friday. You all won't get this episode until a few weeks. But today I was in the car on my way back to Chicago and I was on all Black websites making purchases.
Come on.
That is what I was doing. And so I'm intentional about that. As you all know, we reached our 100th episode. Woohoo! On that, we have launched, guys, a BBM mag, which is our mini magazine. I can't wait to tell you all about that, so that you too can learn about all of these businesses that we've actually set down, hear their stories. And so I am super excited, but I was like literally so excited in the car that I'm not running to my big box, which I love my big box, so it's not against them. But the fact that I was on websites of Black businesses and being intentional with making these purchases, so that instead of driving to my big box, because some of my big box they do feature Black businesses. So that's also another thing that I do appreciate, which is part of the reason why we built this podcast, is that this is a podcast that really is about collaboration. And so making sure that we are not talking about, businesses that are not businesses of color, or they particularly come from that, but it's really about collaboration, because we've had people that collaborate with Black businesses, whether they're suppliers, whether they are one of their service providers, whatever it is, we make sure that happens. So we're going to get right to it. This is my soror, my sister, my friend. She's just a rock star. I'm just so grateful to know her and to have her in the studio on the other side of me, like she's here with me. So it just brings me so much joy. And this is my joy, because I do believe that joy is a commodity and that I get to have amazing people to come into the studio and share who they are. So before we dive in, you all know I got to give you all some of that background, because they put an amazing bio together and I make sure and say that. So LaTrice Elle, I'm going to tell you why I've been knowing her as Elle. Didn't know she had LA in front of her name. So we now have something else in common. LaTrice Davis and she goes by Elle, MSW, and we're going to talk about MSW because I always ask these acronyms and I want people to know what they are, is a seasoned nonprofit leader with nearly 25 years of expertise in leadership development, program design, and strategic partnership building. As the founder and chief elevation officer of the Ellevate Group, LLC, she empowers youth serving organizations that has helped secure over $20 million in grant funding in clients like, and that's Phalanx, is that Phalanx? Phalanx, thank you, Family Services, and Pebbles, one of my favorites. Elle's resilience shines in her TED Talk. She has a TED Talk, guys, called Embracing Resilience as Your Superpower. So make sure you Google it. A dedicated author, mentor, and mother, she lives in Bronzeville in Chicago with her daughter, Simone, who is just a joy, continuing to uplift others through her unwavering servant leadership. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hey, Sor.
We in the building.
We in the building.
We are in the building.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you for all that you have said about service and why you got into business, because you are a woman after my own heart. So I appreciate that. I thank you. And I am excited about this conversation today. Hey!
This is a Black Friday special. I know when you guys hear this, it won't be Black Friday, but it'll be Black Friday in 2025.
Listen, and it's always Black Friday because here we go.
Right. You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right, because we talking on the Black Businesses Matter podcast.
Let's go.
So, and let me say this for the people. This woman, it's crazy. Like, I would see her, we be in the coffee shop. She's like when I say on her computer, I'm in mine. We like, hey sis, I see you. We both get in our coffee, our tea, having a moment. It's like we stop at the fish bowl, like, girl, what you working on? Then we go back to work. This was happening in cafes. So shout out to Sip and Savor.
Definitely home away from home.
I know. We had him on the show too. So just to know that that's where we would see each other. Yeah. And that's when our relationship grew, and we see each other just doing all these amazing things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was just sitting next to her, like in the coffee shop. And then, of course, we discovered we are sorors. And of course, y'all know how Deltas roll. We leaders. I'm just going to say that, right? We come in like that. So, but to know that, and I did know the background, right? Mm-hmm. And I love that a real relationship is developed, not knowing the background. But I do believe that our whole story is necessary, right?
Yes, absolutely.
A piece of our story is just a piece of our stories. But I do think that, Elle, one of the things that I've learned as this communicator and this storyteller is that oftentimes we are not being told the real story, like the whole story, right? We pivot out of here to do this, but we didn't really understand how did you get to that point to make the pivot.
Absolutely.
We didn't hear that story. So you're just seeing like, oh, the glamour, like how did she get this
glamour
tech
of social media,
yes.
right?
And I think the reels are the reels, right? You think 2 minutes is going to literally give you a snapshot of who I really am to the core, which is why we're going to ask you, Elle, who were you as a little girl?
Ooh, okay. Now, who was I as a little girl? Only child.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I always start with that. And, because that tells a lot about who I am.
It does.
Right? But it
does.
doesn't also.
Yes.
Because a lot of only children... Well, the stereotype of only children.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's say the stereotype.
Right. The stereotype of only children, that only children are selfish and they don't share and they don't.
Yep.
And that's not who I am.
Yep. That's not who you are.
Like, I am a giver of information. I like to share resources. I like to share the things. Right now, if it's some really good food, I don't know. I might not share that. But, we'll see. But for the most part, I'm a sharer.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I think the other part of that is I was born to teen parents. Right. My mom walked across her high school stage with me in her belly at 17 years old from Harper High School.
Wow.
And so my parents were raising me as they were growing up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they were just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so how I show up today is because as a little girl, being an only child, I was a friend in the environments that I was in, right? Like I was, and also an old soul, right? Because my cousins, you know, for whatever those family situations, I wasn't around all my cousins all the time that were my age. So I grew up with all my aunts who are really my great aunts. I never refer to them as my great aunts, but they just my aunties, right? I grew up being one of the only children in all the adult environments, right? And so I saw a lot, I heard a lot, I read a lot, and friendships were really important to me. I went to the same school from kindergarten through 8th grade, Walt Disney Magnet. Shout out to Northside School.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love it.
And my parents, and that's the other thing, my parents left the Inglewood community to live on the north side in Edgewater in the Uptown area so that I could go to Walt Disney.
Wow.
So they uprooted what they knew.
So, wow.
So that I could go to a
And
school,
experience something
so
different.
that I can experience something different, a school that was going to provide me the education that they wanted me to have, right? So I was, you know, the little girl who was an only child who pretty much got all that I wanted. But parents were very, like my dad was real hard on me, like you're going to get A's and B's.
Yep.
Like you have no other choice.
Yep.
But, you know, I turned out okay.
You did. You did turn out okay. But I think it's interesting that it's interesting that your parents kind of did the reverse of what migration was, right? You know, like, yeah, we're going to put you here, live on the north side, which for those that are outside of Chicago, the north side is, you know, predominantly white, right? White. And I would say this.
It depends on where.
And I was going to say, it's because I went to school up north, so I agree. It was actually, to be honest with you, the north side is, to me, the most diverse community, don't you think? Like, when you break it down, because you have the African community.
Yes.
You have the
Asian,
Polish. You have the
yes.
Asian. You have whites. You have blacks. But you have blacks who are immigrants.
I was about to say international, right?
Yeah,
They're from everywhere.
yeah.
So I primarily like Edgewater, Uptown, and then Rogers Park.
Yep.
So I have literally, right, a heavy Indian population,
Indian,
right? Like, so I've experienced everything, right? From, and at Disney, the thing is that's interesting about Disney has a gifted program.
Okay.
And while the school itself was very diverse, if you test into that gifted program, it's a different story.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
So I was one of 4 or 5 of us that were black students that always was in the gifted program.
Got it.
And so that's a little different, right? Because all of the other black students are being bused from the west side, or bused from other places around the north side, and their experience was slightly different than my experience, right?
Yeah.
You know, I participated in junior great books in 4th grade, which was like this big thing, right? Like to be able to read on a certain level, and we put a poetry book together, you know, in 7th and 8th grade, and we became published at such a young age, which you take for granted. You don't really think about that. So the north side is a very interesting place, but the further north you go, the more diverse I think it is.
I agree. I agree. And what was your favorite subject?
Ooh, my favorite subject in school at the time had to do something with reading.
Yeah.
I always, my family talks about me all the time. I always had a book.
Yeah.
Always. I was always reading something. So something reading, language arts type of thing. And I enjoyed spelling too.
Yeah, me too. That's fine. Same thing. I think it's interesting because I was sharing a childhood memory with, you know, my new family. And so I was saying that you could not say the word bored. Like it was always, then go read a book. So part of reading was also part of my hobby. Like, you couldn't just sit there. Like, we couldn't just sit. We got to have the book in our hand. Like, we couldn't sit on the phone. Like, you got to have a book, which is very different because I feel like they trained me like that, but my brother not so much. But, you know, it was like, why you don't have a book in your hand? I would be like, and so to this very day, they say I talk a lot, but I was like, because you had me reading. Like, you had me reading books. So obviously this curious person, right, comes out. So high school, kind of like, so take me through high school to as an adult.
Yeah. So one of the things I like to say too, when it came to high school, I had my heart set on one school. What do you think that is?
Well, I'm going to say stereotypical Whitney Young.
Come on now.
I mean, stereotypical. I mean, some things I know. Then there's some things I know already, but stereotypical was Whitney.
So from Disney, most students either went to Lane, actually.
Yes.
So Lane was like the number one that most people went to. And then we had a handful of people go to Sin. And then you literally had like 2 or 3 folks each school year that went to Whitney Young.
Yep.
But once I visited Whitney Young, I was like, oh, I'm not going nowhere else. Right? Like, my heart is set. And so one of the things my parents was like, okay, Whitney Young it is, right? Like, they didn't even think anything else about it. I did the test and we had no backup plan. There was no like, what happens if you don't get into Whitney Young? It was like, you going to Whitney Young. And I'll never forget my aunt that we spent Thanksgiving with. We were at her house. And on the same day I was there, my parents were not there. They were home, or one of them was home. They called me up and I had letters from Lane and Whitney Young on the same day. And I was like, open the Lane letter first. Right? Because I was just like, open the Lane letter first.
Yeah.
Lane letter, you're accepted. I was like, okay, fine. Then I like held my breath. I remember like holding my breath, like, open the Whitney Young letter, please.
Wow.
And my mom was like, you ready?
Wow.
I'm like, I think so. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I am just nervous on pins and needles. That Whitney Young letter said you're accepted. I'm like, yes, I am in there.
And that was it.
That was it.
You were clear.
I was clear. I didn't think anything else about it. I was like, okay, my high school life is set, right? Wow. Let me get on this train off of Granville and going on to Whitney Young every day.
Yeah.
And so high school was amazing for me. Good for you. I absolutely enjoyed being at Whitney Young. It's definitely where I started to learn different things. Malcolm X came out my freshman year of high school. We all cut school to go see it, right? Like being the pro-Black students. And ironically, it's the first year that I stopped eating pork. Like, I made a conscious decision at 14. And like, part of it was like, I'm reading Malcolm X and like reading about the Muslim influence. And then part of it was just, I also was like, it's just not good, you know? So I like stopped eating pork, stopped drinking pop. At 14, my mom was like, really? You're not drinking it? No, I don't want that.
Wow.
Right. And I was just like, I don't really have a really good reason why. I just didn't want it anymore.
Yeah.
But high school, I ran track, had met some wonderful people, had wonderful friends, you know, great friendships, and have fun. Yeah. Right. I think I did what I was supposed to do as a teenager. It's like I had some ups and downs. My parents separated. At one point, got back together, so there was a lot of like fluctuation there. Yeah. We lived with my aunt for a little while and all these kinds of things. So I think that impacted me a little bit. Started, got in a little normal teenage girl trouble. Yeah. Right. Then college was the same thing. My parents was like, wherever you want to go, you can go. Right. Like, they're like, we're not doing anything with that. And, I had my heart set on Howard. I did not get accepted to Howard. I was slightly devastated. But I had applied to a school in Omaha, Nebraska, which most people are like, what? How did you apply to a school in Omaha, Nebraska? I applied to Creighton University in Omaha, Nebraska. I went in wanting to be a OB-GYN. Right, so I had seen all the Cosby Show episodes. Of course, right? You did, because that's where we all wanted. That's where we all wanted. And so I was like, oh, I want to be like Heathcliff Huxtable, right? I'm going to bring the babies in this world, And Creighton had like a guaranteed admissions program. If you maintained a certain GPA, you can automatically get into their med school. And Creighton was my first acceptance letter and gave me the most money. So I ended up at a predominantly white institution in Omaha, Nebraska. I had never seen Omaha, Nebraska ever before I drove up there.
Wow.
So that was a culture shock.
Yes, it was.
And not from a culture shock because there's not black folks there, right? But from a culture shock because I'm not kidding. I started college in 95 and I'm not kidding. When I woke up, my dad's driving and I woke up and I looked out the window and I saw a man with a jerry curl. I was like, oh, okay. We in the 90s now though, right? Mid 90s. Okay. Cool, whatever. Right? Like I was like, what did I just walk into?
Oh, that's hilarious.
So, but Creighton, I remember calling my mom about 3 weeks in being like, I don't know if I could do this. It's a little too white for me. Right? Like it's, and she was like, here's the deal.
Yeah.
She's like, give it 1 full year. And if you need to transfer after your full freshman year, we'll figure it out. But what I was trying to get away from became my fight.
Yeah.
So before diversity was cool, before it was the end thing, you know, after George Floyd, I was all in diversity. I became the voice on campus for other black students. You know, I led the Black Student Association for 2 years. That's where, you know, I became a Delta. Like, so I just became like, I was really entrenched in the Multicultural Student Affairs office because I was just like, well, no, our voices need to be heard. So I found my voice. I found my leadership at Creighton. Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that story. I love the story because we don't understand that finding your voice doesn't necessarily have to, can look different. Let me say this. We believe that finding our voice has to be around all people that look like us, and that's not true. All people that make the same amount of money, that's not true either.
Nope.
You know, so I think diversity is important, and we talk about diversity in thought, and that level of diversity in thought also triggers a level of, I think, radical thinking. You know, I think so.
I agree with that.
And so given the fact that that's the space that you in. So did you grow up with seeing entrepreneurs?
No.
Okay.
Right?
You didn't see it. Wow.
I didn't see it directly in my family. My dad talked about it sometimes. Like my dad, God rest his soul, he's deceased, passed in 2018. But he was a little radical.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like he worked for a company that got bought out by Boeing and, you know, always worked for someone else. But towards the end of his life, he found ways of entrepreneurship. And he would always say, like, you know, these people don't care nothing about you. You gotta do your own. Right? Like you gotta make your own way. And I was like, okay, whatever that means. Right.
Right.
Like for me, I just wasn't sure what that was going to look like. So no, I did not grow up around entrepreneurship.
And I think that's a message that I want people to understand, is that a lot of messages within Black culture was they got to a space where they got tired, and this was going to be a better place of freedom for them. And so I think that in itself, I don't think it was in their minds multiple streams of income. I don't think it was that. It was, listen, this check ain't giving me enough to do this, and I want my children to have a little bit more. I want them to have access to a little bit more. I want them to see. So I think in that regard, I think they were planting seeds for us, not even knowing. And so let's talk about your book, because I do think that writing, reading, we don't understand how much this is Larvetta saying, I think that reading it should be a part of therapy in some regards, because if your thoughts go away, right, you start to thought, but if you read something, it allows for you to regulate those thoughts, to be able to center yourself. And I think when we allow stuff to get into our heads, then it gets very muddy up there. But when you read, it allows for you to have some new thoughts and new dream. It helps you to dream because you start to like picture what you think the author was saying, and the author is saying their truth, but I can read it and see something completely different.
The perception is everything,
right? And so, which is why I think reading, whether that's audible, I still love touching the books.
Tangible, yeah.
But I will tell you, I have so many books that it's ridiculous that I don't have a bookcase for them. So I'm gonna tell you something that's actually, I think I have a book addiction. So I think there's a such thing as that. I think I have a book addiction, and I buy them and then I have nowhere to put them. So I'm trying. So let's talk. So one of my questions, that I always try to ask, how did you start the process? I want to write a book, and I'm always like, how do you, and I want to know like down, almost like the details, not like, I just took Friday and like, what did that take? Like, what did you do? Like,
it's so
literally
unconventional.
Okay.
So my way is very unconventional. Okay. I'll tell the story first, and then we'll get into some other stuff about it.
Yes.
So this book, The Art of the Bounce Back, actually started and was born from me challenging myself in the month of December of giving resilience principles every day in December.
Wow.
And so that was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2021, maybe?
Okay.
It was December 2021.
Okay. So during COVID still. We were still in the pandemic.
Yes. Okay. If I'm not mistaken. I may have to double check on that date. But anyway, regardless of that, I had been, from my loss, right? I had a major significant loss in my life of my husband, unexpectedly, back in 2014. And from that, I had been very intentional about my healing and my grief process and what that looked like. And I had been searching for ways to continue to share that with public and in the open so that other people could use some of the things that I did, because I kept meeting other young Black widows, right? I was 36 when I became a widow. And I was meeting women younger than me. I was meeting women who had been married shorter time than I had, like all these different circumstances. And so I was like, you know what? I have a love-hate relationship with social media, right? I want to do it when I want to, but when I don't want to, I don't want to. Yeah. And I don't feel like I have to grow my business that way either, right? So I have
say a word. Say a word on that.
I'm like real love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
But this particular year, I was like, I'm going to challenge myself to go live for 31 days. And I'm going to go live using the principles that I have used to help me heal my heart. So I started doing videos, posting them every single day. I was in a mastermind with one of my longtime coaches, and she challenged us to repurpose our content in other ways, right? Because we all have tons of content in multiple ways.
Correct.
And she's like, think about doing it in a different way. So what I didn't realize, and I'm just realizing at this very moment as I'm talking about it, I was using AI before, like AI was super buzzy, right?
Wow.
Because what I did was uploaded all of those videos to a platform and had it transcribed.
Wow. That was like, did y'all hear that? I'm just saying it like, oh my, so you're over here thinking, yeah, they're in the corner, they're in the closet, right? No. You took so let's have a moment. You found your voice in college, right? Took that voice, transcribed that voice, and put that voice in a whole book.
Yeah.
In a whole book. Oh my, in that process, what were some barriers that you found with that before you realized that I'm about to do this into a book? Like, what barriers did you find?
Oh, the first and foremost, and the barrier that I still have is fear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not confused that I have a voice for certain people. I'm not confused that the things that I've gone through in my life are meant as a testament to someone else. Not confused about that. But fear, the vulnerability behind showing up in the world in that way is scary.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so there are still days, right? Like, no, this is not a New York Times bestseller yet.
Wow. Yes.
Right?
Thank you for the yes.
Or,
yes.
you know, no, I may not have done it a conventional way.
Yeah.
And no, it's not your...
What's the conventional way, though, Elle?
I mean, you know, like conventional way, like, or the conventional way that we think we hear, right?
Right.
Like we people go off to the beach and
Oh, I went away on this retreat. I took a 7-day retreat and I came back with this New York. You know, I agree. I'm with you on that one.
Right. Or
you.
I took a year off work and I wrote like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That definitely was not my story. Right.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I do think we complicate it also, right? Because we have the words. But, you know, the fear creeps in because it's like you're vulnerable because, like, yes, I got an editor, but they're like, sometimes I read some of the chapters and I'm like, oh, I would have said that differently now.
Wow.
Or I would have done. So it's that constant critique, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip, I've had people who are like, oh my God, I love this.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's absolutely beautiful. I don't think I've ever seen it.
I brought one for you.
Oh, you
so
did? Because it's so pretty.
Yes.
Like, it's a really, I mean, and I say this, the art of that bounce back. I love that because I think that is the life we live, is the bounce back, baby.
Constantly.
Like, it's
Constantly.
From the death, right? From death to divorce to loss, lost the job.
I was about to say layoffs, houses, right?
Yes, it's,
friendships,
yes,
all
right?
the things.
The instability, you know, and I think the bounce back, when you think about it, is, and this is also very generational, supportive. So any generation can get this, because whether you are, right? When I sit here, I'm like, whether you are 18, fresh out of like high school, you can take this, because I see me, like this me on here, right? But then the little girl never really goes away. What you just said from like, you're still that little girl. Like, we don't understand that the little girl still comes back. Yeah. She comes back and she's gone back to the bounce back. Like, let me, you know.
And you need the refresher.
You do.
Right?
You
because
do.
How many times have we heard something multiple times, but we're all tied to someone in particular, right?
Yeah.
Because Larvetta, you can hear the same message from 5 different people, but it's one person that's going to pierce your heart in a different way than those other 4.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be like, oh.
Absolutely.
And you're like, this ain't new.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's not necessarily that it's new information, but it's the way it's said, or it's the story shared, right? So the art of the bounce back, and it's meant to be a back pocket guide. I always said that. I always wanted it to be something that you can put in your pocket, your purse, your whatever, so that you can almost like pull it out. You know, it's written almost like a devotional, because it's 31 days. And so it's meant for you to spend 4 or 5 minutes every day reading the principle and then taking action. Like, what can you then do in your own life that you're going to take action to that principle?
That's right.
And that is what it's meant to do. It's not your beach read. It's not, let me go sit down and vacation, right? It is your practical everyday guide that you need, because life be lifing.
You're listening to Black Businesses Matter, and we will continue our conversation in a second. But first, take a listen to this special message for our BBM fam.
We know how important it is to stay connected, so why not join our BBM Fam Club for special announcements and exclusive offers by texting BBM FAM to 312-300-1300. That's BBM FAM to 312-300-1300 today. Now let's get back to Black Businesses Matter.
Well, I'm going to read day 24. I just happened to, because I think it's important. Day 24, take a break. Take a break. Take a break. We don't recognize how information overload impacts our mind, body, and soul. So this is in day 24, guys. Now don't jump to 24, but if you have to, it says pause, close the apps, temporarily delete the apps. I love that you said temporarily. Yes, I mean literally take a break from social media. It could be 1 day, 5 days, 21 days, or anytime you so choose. And this is the other part. We get so caught up in scrolling timelines and seeing what's going on to the point that we internalize the things that we see, both good and bad. When our friends on social media and in real life are posting about the wins they're having, we internalize this information and it can lead us to a dark place, especially if it's not our winning season, so to speak. Woo! That just, for me, is powerful because we see people winning. Like, when is it me? I've been there, so I know that, right?
All
when
I
is
do
it me?
is win, no matter what, right? Like,
baby, listen. But what we have got to realize is, I love that you said this, right? If it's not your winning, it may not be your winning season.
We have seasons, and that's okay.
Right? Because
doesn't mean it's bad either. Doesn't mean it's bad.
Because sometimes it's requiring us, right? I always love seasons, right? There's a season for harvest. Like right now, right? We're in cold, we're hibernating, right? There's no flowers, right? But it's coming back. Mm-hmm. But what are we gonna do when we're gonna plant some more seeds? We gonna water it when it's time.
We gonna rest.
We gonna rest. That's what
we
you said.
Gonna rest.
And so I think from that part, like the message of what's next, I want to talk through like what's next for entrepreneurship, right? We heard it, the hustle, the grind. You've been in business for a long time too, Elle, right? You've heard the message, right? If you ain't grinding, you ain't hustling, you ain't making no money out. My father used to say, if it don't make sense, what he used to say?
If it don't make money, it don't make sense.
That's his favorite line. And I messed it up because I didn't, because really understanding that, are you chasing after money? And I really, really believe, Elle, as I've had so many, they're chasing their dreams. They are using their pain to triumph. It's not, hey, and don't get me wrong, transaction business are important, right? Getting your teeth, like sometimes those are just real big. I mean, we got to go to those places. Like you got a situation, you got to go get it fixed. I'm not saying that's not it, but even in that business, you want the right customer. You were very clear and you said, I realized that I'm not talking to everybody.
Oh, I'm not. And that's okay, right?
What made you, let me say this. Of course, I work in marketing. We say this all the time. You have a market that's just for you. When did you realize that?
That's a great question. Honestly, it's a daily process.
Okay.
I'm still realizing it.
Okay.
Right?
That's fair.
Because when you set out in this world to do anything, you want all the people, right? Like what I said is I had a goal of selling 1 million books.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And selling 1 million books, not from to your earlier point, like not necessarily from a money standpoint, but selling 1 million books because I want conversations about resilience to happen all over the world. I want us to be sitting across the tables. So all those people that family time, it's holiday time, it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, it's Kwanzaa, all those things. We're in community more often. Yeah. And I want us to talk about what does it really mean to rest and to delete your social media apps and, to really be vulnerable, to be transparent with people. These are all chapters in the book. What does that really mean? So I'm still learning that my voice is not for everybody.
Man.
And it's okay.
I appreciate that.
I've worked with coaches. I've worked in communities of entrepreneurs to try to understand that. Social media will have you thinking something else. I'm guilty of it sometimes. Me too. Right? Yeah. Like getting caught up in the hype. Like, man, I use this as an example. When I posted something about Usher around the Super Bowl and talked about how I loved how he put so many people on, on that stage with him. Like everybody was like, oh, Usher's performing. But Usher was like, oh, no. And, right? Yeah. That post that I wrote, I don't know how many words it was, no more than 100 words. that post got shared like 70 times, opposed to me saying something about something that's in the book.
Yeah.
And people like, it's crickets.
I know. Tell me.
What in the world? Like, we're so caught up in like people
Pop
that
culture,
we can't touch.
Yeah.
And like, we don't really know their stories, only what they want us to know, that the people that we see on a regular basis and interact with, we're not, it's like, oh, okay, whatever.
I know.
And I was just flabbergasted because I was just excited because I was like, come on, Usher.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I was on a high, I saw him in Vegas, all the things.
Because the show is amazing.
Yeah.
And you on a high.
So
I
was
get it.
like on a high about
you
that.
had the Usher effect. And it's okay.
Listen.
It's okay.
And so I put a little, blurb out there and people were like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. Yeah. Now if I put my same thing, now when I put my stuff out there, it be quiet, and so it's just,
I'm guilty of the same thing.
So interesting to me how, we show up in the world and how we do get caught up in, like you said, pop culture. And yeah, we're all guilty of it.
We are all guilty. And the crazy part about it, Elle, is that I told someone recently, I said, it's easy. I really, let me say this. I said, we can share, and these are all great things, right? Weddings, proposals, deaths, and we get everything we need to talk to. But when we talk about dreams and we talk about the passion we have in these passion projects that are real businesses, we get nothing. And what I've learned as I really dig deep, because of course having to watch and listen to trends and white papers and all this, I also think that it also shows you how influential we really are, because we're so influential that there are algorithms to not keep us connected. Ooh. And so we get caught in that web, right? And we fall that if we could, in some regards, force the algorithm to share it with my sister. And so I'll give you an example. If I receive a resource on email, I may not know anybody that this is for, but sometimes I'll be like, what's my number? And I'll put 12, send it to 12 people. Because the thing about it is that those 12 people, I don't know who those 12 people for, but what we have to do is what we don't do is that I know Elle, I know, I saw it, but we don't understand what that can do if it's exposed to your neighbor who doesn't know Elle, right? Yep. But you, let's say, go to yoga with them.
Yep.
But you don't have to sell them on Elle. But what you could do is just say, check this out. That's all you got to do. You don't even have to sell them on. But we don't understand. That's because we are influential. That's why I built this podcast, because we are influential. We don't even know that we are. We want them to say, pick me, see me. Oh my God. No, stand up for yourself.
I'm already chosen.
That part.
I'm a chosen one.
That part. So sharing it with your sister or your brother is just the same as an email. This is my favorite line. Sharing is caring. I'm not even endorsing. I'm not telling you that this is amazing. This book is. I'm just telling you.
Here's a resource.
And share.
Here's something.
Share. And so realizing that's our piece around that. And so when I think about books, guys, for those that are wanting to start a book, or maybe you've already had a book and it's not growing the way that you want it to grow, maybe you have to go back and look at it differently, right? I love that you said, I went in here and was like, I could have said that different. But that doesn't mean anything, because somebody else is going to take it and see it differently,
exactly,
and be like,
what it was.
Okay, well, let me try this. And so recognizing that. The other thing that I think, the reason why I think it's important is that when you have a book, depending on where you sell it, you are a global author. And we don't realize that. So you're expecting the neighbor to buy the book. Well, there's somebody in Russia that would love to have this book. I think that's the other part, which is what I'm talking about, what's next. We have to understand that proximity is limiting us.
Yeah. Oh, come on now.
It's limiting us because when we think about global, When I think about the global market of my friends who are doing business, you know what that are over in other countries? They want to sell to U.S. We busy trying to sell to the neighbor.
That's true. We're not even thinking
about it. And they're wanting to sell to they want to hit this market. And we like, well, why? My friends, none of them bought my book. Stop expecting
your friends to buy your book. You share it with them, of course, right? But you have to understand, and we do. We absolutely get caught up in that. Yeah. But that's part of that, I believe. And I am definitely guilty of this, is because we start businesses and we don't understand marketing. Yeah. We don't understand what it means to really be storytellers, right? Yes. Yeah. And so we think that our people that are close to us, we think those are going to be the people that are always going to support us. Yep. And they will, because they love you. Yep. But they might not either. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's okay. Yes. I just got back about a month ago from a trip to Tanzania. Yes, and you did. Yes. It was, and I was blessed to take my daughter, right, who's 12 years old. Yes. And so that opened my eyes in a different way, because number one, I'm looking in Tanzania. Y'all, it's so much land in Tanzania. Wow. I'm looking at my hotel room and it's just land upon land upon land. And I'm like, does it ever stop? Wow. And that was in one country on the continent. Wow. That's one country. Wow. And I was just like amazed by that. And so that's another thing, right? We have to travel outside of our comfort zone to be able to expand our mind. That is where true creativity lives. That is where we see things in a different way. When we get outside of, I used to work directly with kids, and I used to always take them on field trips. And I was like, you got to get outside of your 5-block radius. Yep. Yeah. This Boys and Girls Club might be in Woodlawn, but I'm taking you downtown. I'm taking you to the North Shore. I'm taking we're not just staying right here, because if you don't experience something different, that's right, you will never know. Yeah. And you will, I also believe you also won't learn how to dream. That part. You won't learn how to dream, because in your world, you're limited. You're limited in your thinking. And so I do think that is important. So what do you think is next when you think about entrepreneurship and the work that you do? So, I've had a lot of conversations over the last couple of weeks since Election Day. And I've been very honest that I am very concerned, right, about the future of our country. I am very concerned being the mother of a 12-year-old girl. And so I am trying to do business differently, right? So I have operated in a space. I've been very blessed, I'll say, and fortunate that I haven't marketed my business, right? I do work with youth serving nonprofit organizations primarily, right? Aside from the book and the work that I do around resilience. But I've never really marketed the business. And so business comes to me. Yes. And so You're a people magnet. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Listen. You're a people magnet. You are. And so I was like, okay, you got to do this differently though. Yeah. So I'm being very intentional about how I connect with organizations now. And truth be told, like using what's happening now, right? So AI is all over the place. Yep. I've gotten real interested in it, right? Yep. Like super excited and using stuff with my family. I'm showing them stuff. They were like, oh, you could do that. Yeah. And so, and nonprofits are behind the game. Yeah. And so, well, who better than me, right? Yeah. Somebody who has over a 20-year history in the nonprofit sector, someone who's real interested in AI. We got to start merging things. So that's one step that I'm taking personally in my business, is working with nonprofit organizations, helping them to integrate AI into the work that they do. I love that. Right. I have a summit coming up in January, a day-long summit for folks to, teach me what you know. That's a brag moment. Brag on it. Brag. When is it? Listen, it is January 14th, which is a Tuesday. Okay. We're going to have some webinars beforehand in December. What's your website? Website is Ellevate Group. .us. And so that's Ellevate with like LELLE VATE group.us. All the information is there.
Okay.
And super excited about that.
Yeah,
right?
That's exciting.
And also working with organizations very intentionally. So opposed to these, like, I do a lot of training and facilitation. So instead of one-offs, it's like, no, you need to hire me for 6 to 12 months. Right? Let's really do leadership development.
Yeah.
Let's not do these one-off sessions, this one-off workshop.
Yep.
No, let's dig deep and actually do it. And so I'm super excited. I signed a couple new clients already.
Oh, congratulations.
Under this. So I'm super excited. I'm on the road. I have not hit 7 figures in my business yet. Mark my words.
Is that the 2025 goal?
I will hit $1 million.
Okay. Did y'all hear that? One thing that I love that you shared is that you paid attention. The evolution, I know it's changed. You did something about it. And then you challenged yourself that I'm going to get to 7 figures in that new elevation. I love that. Like, we don't put the value with the opportunity to evolve and pivot in that space. I love that. So I think that's something I think is new, because most times when we pivot, we pivot based on some things happening, right?
Yes.
Occurring. You're pivoting based on, we know that from a government standpoint, from a lot of players, this is an opportunity for me to say, okay, what's next for me? And how do I want to show up in the world, in this global marketplace? So I think, and I want us to do, this idea of global excellence and understanding that if you're doing business online, that you are a global leader. And so that's one of the things that I want us to shift. That's one is, no longer should you say, you can still be a community connector as a global leader. You know?
I think we just don't know how to, because that's the thing. I've always said, I'm like, no, it's time for me to go global. Like there's nonprofit organizations, there's youth serving organizations all over the world. Right.
Yeah.
And from that standpoint, but it's like, and so what I do is when I hear people say that they do things globally, I'm like, how'd you get into that?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And even from, like the way I kind of describe my world and my work is the Ellevate group is, it's the larger brand of the work that I do. Right. Yeah. But Elle Davis Speaks is the part of that, a subsidiary of that does all of the resilience work and the book and being an author. And even with that, there are conferences where they're like, we need wellness speakers. Well, I'm here. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like I don't care what country you're in. Right. Yeah. And so what was fortunate is the woman that put together the Tanzania trip, I spoke. So technically I am a global speaker now because not even technically. Right.
You are. Technically
that's
you are
speaking in Tanzania on the soil of Tanzania, right? In the continent of Africa. I was like, come on now.
Yes. Like, we have to understand that our value, our influence it matters and it's important. And so, which is why this particular platform, and I'll tell you this, and I'm probably going to start repeating this. I created this podcast because there was an investor that said that there were investors that were not Black who wanted to invest and they didn't know where to invest. So I solved a problem and said, hey, here is a way that you can learn about thriving Black businesses, and there was no barrier. You don't have, because some of these investors are not online. They're not on social media. So they want to be kind of anonymous in their way, but they can actually hear your story, right? Versus, okay, cool. But I didn't hear that story. And so we had an opportunity for the story to be told that you're just not getting like, I see the numbers. Okay, cool. But it's the stories, because let me tell you something, investors buy you.
Oh, absolutely.
They want the numbers. Now but they want to know your story. And that's an important element that haven't been fortunate to be able to know that. We just haven't. And so having a platform that we can do that is just a win. This is exciting. So I just want to say this couple things that we want to do for Brag Moment. I want to go back. Your book again, the name of your book?
The Art of the Bounce Back, 31 Days of Resilient Living. And you can find that at bouncebackcrew.com.
Is that crew?
Crew. Bounce Back Crew. So once you get a book, CREW, then you're a part of the Bounce Back Crew. In the crew.
Okay. So that's one. Okay. Then the website.
Bouncebackcrew.com.
And then the website to Ellevate
For
Group.
Ellevate Group is Ellevate with 2 L's group.us. So
Got it.
ElevateGroup.us.
And what are some of your handles?
So you can find me at Elle Davis Speaks on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook. LinkedIn is a little different, but if you search Elle Davis, ELLE Davis, you will find me. And then you can also search the Ellevate Group.
Nice. So I'm going to ask this new question for 2025. A new question. A new question. Because I think it's important to what you just said for this. I know that we are already in 2025 because I think most of us are already there, right?
Not already.
We already there. You didn't already planned out the webinars for 2022. We already there, right? For us, right?
Plan. Let's go.
What is one? And I kind of said it a little bit, but what is one thing that you see? And this is going to make us a little uncomfortable, but you said it. And I said, I'm going to make us a little uncomfortable. What is one thing from a culture that we struggle with that we need to undo?
Ooh. What is something that we struggle with that we need to undo?
Culturally.
So I am going to say, being a Black woman, right? Mm-hmm. And what I see as Black people, we have got to, the way that I'm going to frame this is a little different, but we have got to start being vulnerable and transparent. Period and end of story. And those two pieces specifically are super important because, again, we talked about it earlier. You see all the shine on social media, right? Yeah. Like you see the glittering golds and, you got the house and you got the car and you got the trip and you got the, but what is the pain behind getting all of that? That's good. What is the realness behind getting all of that? So I said I haven't made it to 7 figures, right? Yeah. And I've made it to multiple 6 figures, but there also have been times where, guess what? I've had to pay hella taxes because I didn't know the right thing to do, didn't have the right process. Nobody's seen that. No, I'm not telling about that all the time, but people ask me, I will definitely share. Right?
That's good.
And have there been times where in this entrepreneurial journey where I wasn't sure where the next client was coming from? Absolutely. What did I have to do? Get this email to working. Send an email out to everybody I know. I'm looking for business. I'm looking for work. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And by the grace of God, people respond to those emails. People respond to the message. And say, oh, well, hey, here's something. I don't know if it's going to be enough. And sometimes you got to take something that's a little bit lower than what you would take because you need the money. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that moment of vulnerability, because I think that's the part that we didn't do for quite some time. And so, but we didn't see that that's also part of the business entrepreneurship. We thought that was separate in some regard. So thank you for that. Why do Black businesses matter?
Man, listen. So the beauty that I have in this day and age, and my daughter, it probably drives her crazy. Every time we go into a Black-owned business, every time I purchase something from a Black-owned business, I explicitly say to her, this is a Black-owned business, right? Yes. Like, I have so much joy and pride. Here, real quick.
Yes.
The best part of this is when I am at home in my bathroom and I look around and see all the Black-owned hair and body products that I have in my bathroom and I use, I'd be like, growing up, right? Yeah. I had a relaxer. I had Dark and Lovely, right? That's all I knew. Yep. But now I can look And I'm like, Design Essentials and Mael and UI and like all of these products that are Black owned that I get to say, oh, Simone, you know, you're using a Black owned product.
Yeah.
You know, when I walk into Sip and Savor every single time, she knows who Trez is.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't see Black business owners.
Yeah.
When I grew up.
Yep.
I had no idea like what was really possible. And I think that our children, more than anybody else, needs to see that there are tons of not just Black owned businesses, there are Black ran organizations and companies that are in the traditional corporate sector. Yeah. And that's okay if that's the path that you choose. Right? But our Black businesses are necessary so that our babies see what is possible, so that they know that they can own the restaurants, that they can own the stores, that they can own service-based businesses, that they can own WDB marketing, that they can own, you know, Titania Harris with mental health agency, so that they, you know what I'm saying? Like,
love it.
They need to know that they can own all of these things. And these are people that are in my circle that I love to see every single day, that they can have L3 agency.
Yes.
Right?
That's beautiful.
It's necessary. Our babies need to see it because we don't know what is coming.
Yep.
And if they choose to not do it here in the US, but they choose to do it anywhere else in the world, they need to be prepared. And that goes back to the transparent and vulnerability. That's why we have to tell them the stories. You don't just wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and everything's going to be great.
Yep.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's hard.
It is.
And there have been days, even recently, where I'm like, I can just go be somebody's CEO at Boys and Girls Clubs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can go be a hell of a VP, a director of programs. And
nice job, some benefits. Yep.
Nice job. Let's talk. Okay, we don't have time, but the benefit situation is that's a beast all in itself, which I'm in the mess with benefits right now. Drives me freaking crazy. Right? It's easy to go get a job and have benefits and get a paycheck every 2 weeks. That's the easy part. Yep. Right? It's difficult. I take my computer everywhere. Yep. Because I'm constantly going to get on to do something. And look, this solopreneur world. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, nah. Not for me.
Like, people are not ready for what it really means to be an entrepreneur.
And, you know, every time I ask that question, I always get chills. I promise you, every time, every person that has answered that question, I get chills because it makes me feel like we don't understand that, to your point, you started this finding your voice matters. And quite frankly, I do believe that all voices matters. I don't think that it has anything to do with, you know, like when we all matter. There was a book that I had growing up called Black Voices, and it wasn't necessarily to call out, but there were just the Langston Hughes and Paul Laurence Dunbar didn't have a space to put their poetry and their literary work, so they just built this compilation just so that we could all literally be able to recite them and read and have this in one book. That's all we're saying. That doesn't mean go read, not to read Macbeth either. It just means that it was
both
right.
There is a
I
both
love this. It's no more is it or, it's an and so I think that's our biggest struggle too. And so, what brings you joy?
Ooh, what brings me joy? I'm a simple pleasure, right? Like, I grew up eating gold medal ribbon ice cream from Baskin Robbins. That brings me joy.
That brings you joy. I love it. Yes.
Like, just, looking at my daughter laugh and be able to, like, really not have any worries or concerns, right?
I love it.
That brings me joy.
I love it.
Spending time with my friend. A good game night.
A good game. I just did that yesterday, so I agree.
A good game night brings me so much joy. And sitting by water with fresh air brings me joy.
I love it. Guys, hasn't this been amazing? Like, I told y'all that after we hit this 100th episode, we just gonna keep elevating. We're gonna keep elevating.
Yes.
So we're gonna keep elevating. And she just literally just helped us.
Elevation.
So this has been it's such a, I mean, truly, like, I'm just sitting here like, yay. And then I just want to throw a little plug in for my sister. She does have an incredible newsletter called Wellness Wednesday that I get. And every time, sometimes I land in it, I'm like, I got to come back to it. And I do. And sometimes I don't. But then there's another one coming. So then you're like, okay, that's okay. And so if that is your journey, you know, I do believe, make sure you opt into the newsletter on the website on Ellevate, because I think it just helps us to be able to process our thoughts in any point that we may have, because you can get her newsletter at 2 a.m. And that's the beauty of where we have to subscribe to what we want. We can subscribe to it and look at it at any point. And I think that's the beauty of what the World Wide Web has allowed for us to do it. You have been amazing, Elle.
Thank you, Larvetta.
You have been amazing.
I got to put you on blast for your listeners in a very good way, though.
Okay. Nobody's put me on blast on the podcast. So, but this is what happens when you reach 100 episodes. Okay.
And when it's your soror.
Yes.
So I just want to honestly just say thank you for always being a willing participant to whatever I have going on without ever having to really participate, right? And what I mean by that is you all, one Sunday, I was at brunch with a friend. Larvetta was also there. Larvetta pulls me to the side and says, whatever you need, I will help you.
Wow.
Whatever you need. I'm just a phone call away. I'm a text away. I'm a whatever away. Whatever you need, I will help you. And I haven't pulled, that card, but I know that if I need to, it's there. And so I just want to say thank you. And I'm getting all emotional.
I know. Oh my gosh. And that's okay, because you told us to be more vulnerable. You did tell us. And so that means the word. Sometimes you don't know what you do. And then when you said, I'm like, I said that. And you know that I meant it.
We were at the Woodlawn.
Yeah, we were at the Wood. I do remember. I do. Now, when you said the Woodlawn, oh my gosh.
We were at the Woodlawn.
And so that's, I appreciate that you said that, because I was sharing with a friend. I just want us all to win. I do. And that's probably in some regards, probably my isms. I just don't think in this world that we can do more together than we can do apart.
Come on.
And so if we just collaborate more and join hands and unite more, I think we could really eradicate a lot of the stuff that we are faced with. And so that's something that I care most. There's always going to be a word that I'm going to push people to just say, think about this, support this, go to this. And we don't understand that even sometimes we can't make all events, right? But just what we just share it. Just share it. You can share it with one person and it'll change a life, And so we don't understand that. And the other thing that I also want to just mention just really quickly, the time that you're even on here. I see we do all this work, and now to know that you're on the podcast at the time that it was supposed to have you on here, because you really just gave me a little bit more ounce to keep doing this. Because I said at the 100th episode, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I hear that. So it allows for me to just that moment, I got a little bit more push in me. I still got a little bit more push in me to be able to go forth. But it ain't easy. You said it. And so being able to do that. So I love you with all my heart. I support you in your business, guys. Check her out. I'm not going to say this enough. You all say when I bring these businesses on, I bring them on for a purpose, and so that you can hear stories of triumph and know that I appreciate all of you all that have rocked with us all the way from the beginning. But if you are a new listener, I'm challenging you, and I'm challenging myself. Share this with someone. Give this to someone. Say there's a podcast that you need to hear. And so that would mean a lot for me, and allowing me to stretch a little bit more in this 2025 that you share. And again, remember, as you share, you're sharing so many incredible stories of bold, brilliant businesses that will blow your mind, literally.
Absolutely.
So thank you all for rocking with us. Elle, you have been just a joy.
Thank you.
I love you, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
She is a true storyteller. I love learning about the full journey behind her book, The Art of the Bounce Back. Throughout their conversation, she shared invaluable lessons from every step of her journey, emphasizing the importance of not only celebrating the triumphs, but acknowledging the struggles. One key takeaway for me was the power of sharing the challenges, giving people a glimpse into the stops along the way that led to your destination. When was the last time you celebrated a personal achievement? Who in your community lifted you up? And were they there every step of your journey? Check out our show notes to learn more about Elle and join the Bounce Back crew. And join us on our journey to 100th episode by texting BBM Fam to 312-300-1300.
The Black Businesses Matter podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer, marketing, and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. Follow us on Instagram at Black Businesses Matter.